looked upon as being good. Quite a transformation. For 16 years he saw and lived under his father's rule. Now look at how Hezekiah is described in 2 Kings. If you'd like to take your Bible, we'll go do a little reading. 2 Kings chapter 18, 1 through 7. This kind of describes Hezekiah. Now it came about in the 3rd year of Hosea, the son of Elah, king of Israel, that Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, became king. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Abi. His father was Zechariah. He did right in the daughter of Zechariah. He did right in the sight of the Lord according to all that his father David had done. He removed the high places and broke down the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherah, and also broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made. For until those days the sons of Israel burned incense to it and called it Neshan. He trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. So after him there was none like him among all the kings of Judah, nor among those who were before him. For he clung to the Lord, he did not depart from following, but kept his commandments which the Lord had commanded Moses. Very interesting when they're describing King Hezekiah that they did not say he's the son of Ahaz, right? Or he didn't follow in the footsteps of his father. He said that he followed in the footsteps of his father who? David, right? Very, very interesting. In verses 3 and 4, it talks about he removed in verses 4, he removed the high places and broke down the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherah, and also cut to pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made for until those days the son of Israel burned incense to it. All this was idol worship. Okay, he did away with it. He broke down all the places where this would have taken place. If you'll remember, the bronze serpent was the one that Moses had, was a representation of Jesus. Children of Israel were given to idol worship. You can go all the way back to the 12 sons, and it started with them very early. And it was an issue that they had all down through history. Hezekiah put an end to this. He put an end to it. And if you want to, you can look. Some of these are described in 2 Chronicles. We won't have time to do that this morning. Chapter 29. It tells us how he restored temple worship. 2 Chronicles chapter 29. Chapter 30, it says that the Passover was reinstated. And in chapter 31, idols were destroyed. In chapter 20, you'll remember of 2 Kings, verse 1, it says, in those days Hezekiah became mortally ill. And Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, came to him and said to him, thus says the Lord, set your house in order, for you shall live, or for you shall die and not live. And we know after that, it says that he turned his face to the wall and prayed to the Lord. What do you think about that, getting news like that? Is that a curse or is that a blessing? It could be looked upon as a blessing, right? Right? No one wants to find out that they've got bad medical news. Nobody. But it can also be a blessing because you know that your days are drawing near, right? And if you've got some things that need to be fixed, you need to get them fixed. So you can look at it like that. God is telling him, your days are drawing near. But if you'll remember, he is allowed to live an extra 15 years. Did he deserve an extra 15 years? No. Now, he'd done a lot of good things. We just talked about that, right? He'd done away with idol worship. He had restored worship in the temple. But he didn't get this because of what he had done, right? So that is grace shown to him. But I also want you to think of something. Do you know how old Manasseh was when he began to reign? Anybody? 12 years old, right? He would begin to reign when? When Hezekiah died, right? So during these last 15 years, Manasseh was born. Now, was Manasseh a good guy or a bad guy? He's a bad guy, isn't he? Right? So think about that when you're thinking about this. Those last 15 years, Manasseh was born. Unfortunately, he was not alive to see what a mess his grandfather Ahaz had made, and how much differently things were under his father's rule, Hezekiah. He didn't get to see a lot of his father's reign. He was only 12 years old. Something to think about. He was very young. Turn, if you would, to 2 Kings chapter 21, verses 1 through 9. We're going to see a description of Hezekiah. No, of Manasseh. We're done with Hezekiah. I'm sorry. It says Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hepzibah. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the abominations of the nations whom the Lord deposed before the sons of Israel. Remember that verse. He did evil in the sight of the Lord according to the abomination of the nations whom the Lord deposed before the sons of Israel. For he rebuilt the high places, which Hezekiah's father had destroyed, and he erected altars to Baal, and made an Ashereth, and as Ahab king of Israel had done, and worshipped all the host of heaven and served them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord has said, in Jerusalem I will put my name. For he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. He made his son pass through fire, practiced witchcraft, used divination, and dealt with mediums and spirits. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger. Then he set the carved image of Ashereth, which had been made in the house of which the Lord said to David, to his son Solomon, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. And I will not make the feet of Israel wander any more from the land which I gave their fathers, if they only will observe to do according that all I have commanded, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they did not listen, and Manasseh seduced them to do evil more than the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the sons of Israel. Do you remember what God told the children of Israel to do when they went into the land? Do you remember? Turn over to Numbers chapter 33, and we can read it. We're going to be doing a little reading this morning. Get a little practice flipping the pages on our Bible. We'll be reading from verses 50, 51, 52, 55, and 56. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you cross over the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their figured stones, and destroy all their molten images, and demolish all their high places. Verse 55. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come about that those whom you will let remain of them will become as pricks in your eyes, and as thorns in your sides, and they will trouble you in the land which you live. As I plan to do to them, so will I do to you. You remember the story? Did they drive them all out? Oh, yes. I'm in Numbers chapter 33. Yes. Verses 50, 51, 52, 55, and 56. No, they didn't drive them all out. We can find that in Joshua chapter 16. It speaks to that. Verses 10. But they did not drive out the Canaanites, whom lived in Gezer. So the Canaanites lived in the midst of Ephraim to this day, and they became forced laborers. They didn't do what they were told, did they? And he told them why. He told them what would happen, but they didn't do it. Turn, if you would, over just a few more pages to Judges chapter 2. We're going to find out how that turned out for them. Judges chapter 2, verses 6 through 10. If you'll remember, this is the story where Joshua is getting ready to die. You know that Moses could not enter the promised land. Joshua led them over, and his time has come near. We'll begin reading in verse 6 through 10. When Joshua had dismissed the people, the sons of Israel went to his inheritance to possess the land. The people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders who survived Joshua, who had seen all the great work of the Lord which he had done for Israel. Then Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. They buried him in the territory of his inheritance in Timnathheres, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. All that generation also were gathered to their fathers, and there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord, nor yet the work which he had done for Israel. How is it that these people did not know anything about the Lord?
Were they not taught by their fathers?
Evidently not. Or they would have known, right? What was one of the commandments that God had told them before they went in? We're going to look at that also. You remember? Teach your children. That may be part of the story. This is where apostasy begins. Continue reading verse 11. Then the sons of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals. And they forsook the Lord, the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods from among the gods of the people who were around them, and bowed themselves down to them, and thus provoked the Lord to anger. So they forsook the Lord and served Baal and Ashtoreth. Apostasy has begun, right? They've turned away. They've turned away from the Lord. Turn to Deuteronomy chapter 6. We keep digging and we keep digging. We're going to find out what the problem is. If you'll remember this is God speaking to the children of Israel before they came into the land of Israel. We'll begin reading in verse 5. Because I think this is part of the problem. It says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. These words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontals on your forehead. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Then it shall come about, when the Lord your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you great and splendid cities which you did not build, and houses full of all good things which you did not fill. in hewn cisterns which you did not dig, vineyards, olive trees which you did not plant, and you eat and are satisfied. Then watch yourselves that you do not forget the Lord who brought you from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall fear only the Lord your God, and you shall worship him and swear by his name. You shall not follow other gods, any of the gods of the people who surround you. For the Lord your God in the midst of you is a jealous God. Otherwise the anger of the Lord your God shall be kindled against you, and he shall wipe you off the face of the earth. For the Lord your God in the midst of you is a jealous God. That's something I know me and Gerald taught in the young adults class. We may try to teach it up here also. It was kind of an outline of the entire Bible. When the children of Israel were camping and moving, they had certain places, according to the tribes, the way that they would put their tents up, right? Here, east, west, God was in the center, always in the center. How did they know that God was there at night? You know? There'd be fire. Tent would light up, right? During the day, they would see smoke. This is something that I thought about. Because we know that all kinds of things, there were people worshiping idols there. All kinds of things were going on, and I'm thinking, how dense are these people? How silly are these people? The light is on in that tent. Smoke is coming out of that tent. God is right there. He's right there. And they're doing these things. These people don't have good sense. And I thought about that, and I thought about that, and I thought about that, until I thought, you know, when I do silly things, God is right here. Right? He's with me always. So the problem that I could see with the children of Israel, here we go stepping on our toes. When I do silly things, God is with me the whole time also. How dense can I be, not thinking that I can do things and God's not going to see it? You remember, go ahead, Renee.
It's just one of my favorite illustrations, because we can look at the children of Israel and we can see that God brought them out of Egyptian slavery.
Yes.
In less than a month out of slavery, they're crying. They want to go back in.
Yes.
But you were slaves.
Nope, I know.
You had to do what they told you.
Right.
And then we want to look at that and think, how stupid are they?
Yes.
Did they not see that?
Yes.
But I want to look at this and I want to say, well, you know, I got more revelation than they have.
Yes.
I have way more information than they have. I can read everything that God has given me. And when I want to go back and make myself feel like that I have to save myself by works of the law,
Oh, yeah.
how dumb am I? I've gone back to slavery.
Yes.
And I can see it in them, but I can never see it myself.
Absolutely. Because looking at them, when you think about it, it's a mirror, right? Because what they escaped was slavery, which was a representation of sin. And when we escape sin, right, how silly is it for us to get as close as we can to the line of what we have just been taken out of? And they wondered, and they rebelled, and they wondered, and they rebelled, and we and I wonder and I rebel at times. That's a very good point. Excellent point. He told them to teach their children in the morning and in the afternoon. When you rise up, when you lie down. Constantly teach your children. A lot of people here, there are things that I remember from preachers from when I've grown up. I don't know if you guys, some of you might know this. John Belcher preached at Christian Home for years. He came about right after me and Angie were married. And he had one thing that stuck in my head. One untaught generation, and then you have apostasy. One untaught generation. You don't teach your children, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be gone. And as sad as that is, look at the generations that are going to come behind them that are not going to be taught. It is something that is very, very sobering. There's a lot that is said in these 11 verses. In verse 4 of Deuteronomy chapter 6, we're told to teach our children about God, the true and only God. In verse 5, we're told to teach your children to love God. Verse 6 and 7, teach your children to obey God from the heart, not from guilt, not from fear. We are to fear God, but we're to fear Him from our heart because we love Him. Verses 6 and 7 also teaches us, tells us to teach them to follow your example. Okay? Now here's where people get their toes stepped on, and I do too. Telling them ain't so good. It is good, but telling them what to do and then not following the same, what good does that do? What good does it do? If they're going to follow your example, right, which is what you want them to do, I hope, then we need to be doing what's right too. Verses 6 and 7 says, teach your children at every God-given moment, during the day, every day, all day. Verses 7 through 9, teach your children the Bible, how it interacts with their lives daily. Verses 10 through 11, teach your children to love God and not the world. A lot of the emphasis about teaching is put on our fathers. Flip over, if you would. This is something that's very familiar to Ephesians chapter 6. Verse 4. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. It says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and in the instruction of the Lord. What does it mean to provoke? Anybody know? I've cheated a little bit because I looked it up this morning. To make you angry, to offend, to incense, to enrage. Bring them up in the nurture, in the discipline and the instruction of the Lord is what the New American Standard. King James says nurture and the admonition of the Lord. Just over, a couple pages over, is Colossians chapter 3, verse 21. Fathers, do not exacerbate your children so that they will not lose heart. The definition of exacerbate, to intensely irritate, provoke to anger, or embitter someone. The whole idea between both of these scriptures, you're not going to be able to take this and beat them over the head with it. Okay? It may work while they're under your rule, but guess what's going to happen when they're not? They're going to be gone. You have to teach your children to love the Lord. Yes, Bill. Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Everything. Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep. Good. Go ahead, Gene. Hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Hmm. Oh, I know. Right. Yep. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, Jesus said I'm a big fan of the book of John. If you remember the Gospel of John, John 14:15. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. So it's pretty simple. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. So I've got a question for gentlemen here, fathers, even grandfathers. Would you like to be a more godly father or a grandfather? Some traits that we see are shared. Spiritual leadership. By guiding your children in faith and setting a good moral example every day, don't just preach it, but live it. They're with you every minute of the day. If you don't think they know you, you are fooling yourself. They hear what you say, but they also see how you live. Providing and protecting. Working to meet physical and emotional and safety needs of your household. That is something that's typical of someone that is a godly father. Compassionate correction. Compassionate correction. Discipline with love, patience, and instruction. And we have some examples of fathers, good fathers, in the Bible. Joseph, talking about the father, earthly father, the husband of Mary. He protected Mary and Jesus by fleeing to Egypt. He taught Jesus his trade as a carpenter. You can find that in Mark 6:3 if you would like to. It doesn't say anywhere that in there that is a depicted account of Joseph saying, "Come over here, I'm going to show you how to be a carpenter." But in Mark chapter 6, verse 3, when it's talking about Jesus, it says, "Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Carpenters are like most any other trades. You don't wake up one day and know how to do it. So we could rest assured that he was taught how to be a carpenter. Job. You remember Job? Job chapter 1, verse 5, if you'd like to turn over there real quick. Job is right in front of Psalms. It says, when the days of feasting had completed their cycle, Job would send and consecrate them, rising up early. He's talking about his children. In the morning and offering burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, perhaps my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus he did continually. He regularly prayed and offered sacrifices for his 10 children to keep them close to God. Jairus. You remember who Jairus was? He was a synagogue leader. You remember his daughter had died. And he came. You can read this story. We won't be able to read it because it's 16 verses. But she had passed away. And he came to Jesus and fell at his feet, pleaded for his daughter's life. And Jesus raised her from the dead. You can see his concern and his love for his daughter. That's another trait of a good father. Abraham. Genesis 18:19. Turn over if you would. This is something that I saw this morning I thought was very interesting. Genesis 18:19. For I have chosen him so that he command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken about him. So Abraham, he commanded his household to follow God's way. Father and the prodigal son. We're not going to turn over and read that, because I don't know if you've looked at the end of the book or not, but the last 4 lessons that we're going to have are on the prodigal son. So we're going to get a good diet of the prodigal son and his father. So we're going to let that one go. If you would like to, you can kind of look at it. Ultimately, our greatest example is our God in heaven, Father. He's perfect. He's a loving Father who deeply cares and provides for and protects his people. God's love is constant, safe, completely free of failure. David describes God our Father in Psalm 68. This is a lengthy reading, but I want to read that this morning. It is very eye-opening how David describes the God of heaven. He begins, let God rise, let his enemies be scattered, and let those who hate him flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melts before the fire, so let the wicked perish before God. But let the righteous be glad. Let them exult before God. Yes, let them rejoice with gladness. Sing to God. Sing praises to his name. Lift up a song for him who rides through the deserts, whose name is the Lord, and exult before him. A father of the fatherless and a judge of the widows is God in his holy habitation. God makes a home for the lonely. He leads out the prisoners into prosperity. Only the rebellious dwell in a parched land. O God, when you went forth before your people, when you marched through the wilderness, the earth quaked. The heavens also dropped rain at the presence of God. Sinai itself quaked at the presence of God, the God of Israel. You shed abroad a plentiful rain, O God. You confirmed your inheritance when it was parched. Your creatures settled in it. You provided in your goodness for the poor, O God. The Lord gives the command. The women who proclaim the glad tidings are a great host. Kings of armies flee, they flee. And she who remain at home will divide the spoil. When you lie down among the sheepfolds, you are like the wings of a dove, covered with silver, and its pinions with glistening gold. When the Almighty scattered the kings, there it was snowing in Zalman. A mountain of God is a mountain of Bashan. A mountain of many peaks is a mountain of Bashan. Why do you look with envy, O mountains, with many peaks, at the mountain which God has desired for his abode? Surely the Lord will dwell there forever. The chariots of God are myriads, thousands upon thousands. The Lord is among them at Sinai in holiness. You have ascended on high. You have led captive your captives. You have received gifts among men, even among the rebellious also, that the Lord God may dwell there. Blessed be the Lord who daily bears our burden, the God who is our salvation. God is to us a God of deliverances, and to God the Lord belong escapes from death. Surely God will shatter the head of the enemies, the hairy crown of him who goes on his guilty deeds. The Lord said, I will bring them back from Bashan. I will bring them back from the depths of the sea, that your foot may shatter them in blood. The tongue of your dogs may have its portion from your enemies. They have seen your procession, O God, the procession of my God, my King in the sanctuary. The singers went on, the musicians after them, in the midst of the maidens beating tambourines. Bless God in the congregations. Even the Lord you are of the fountain of Israel. This is Benjamin the youngest ruling them, the princes of Judah in their throng, the princes of Zebulun, the princes of Naphtali. Your God has commanded your strength. Show yourself, O God, who have acted on your behalf because of your temple at Jerusalem. Kings will bring gifts to you. Rebuke the beast in reeds, the herd of bulls with the calves of the people, trampling underfoot the pieces of silver. He has scattered the peoples who delight in war. Envoys will come out of Egypt. Ethiopia will quickly stretch out her hands to God. Sing to God, O kingdoms of the earth. Sing praises to the Lord. To him who rides on the highest heavens, which are from ancient times, behold, he speaks forth with his voice, a mighty voice. Ascribe strength to God. His majesty is over Israel, and his strength is in the skies. O God, you are awesome from your sanctuary. The God of Israel himself gives strength and power to the people. Blessed be God. I've never read that before in that context. But just imagine David sitting down and writing this about his God. We got about 5 minutes left. Okay, 6 minutes left, Jeff says. 3 minutes left. Okay, 3 minutes left. So we're going to end with this. Turn over to Colossians chapter 3, please. Told you that we may step on everyone's toes. And I think this is where we're going to get everybody. Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 18. So as those who have been chosen of God, holy and beloved, put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. Whoever has a complaint against anyone, just as the Lord forgave you, so also should you. Beyond all these things, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ richly dwell within you, with all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another with psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with thankfulness in your hearts. Whatever you do in the word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks through him to the God the Father. Teaching your children is not something that you can do every day. It's a hard job. It takes a lot of work every day. You'll make mistakes. Own them. Make changes. Don't ever stop trying. Your children are counting on you. But helping to train children also falls on all of us. We just read some things that we're supposed to put on as Christians. Okay? I'm going to ask you a question as we close. What good is it going to do us to teach that from this pulpit, or to teach that down in the basement to all these children, and then for here to come up here and hear people start complaining about this, complaining about that. This is a problem, that's a problem, everything is a problem. Or to hear it on their way home in the car. So my question is to you, is it better to hear a sermon or to see a sermon? Any thoughts or comments before we end? Thank you for your attention. We will continue a little bit more closely with the book on Wednesday night.